During the COVID lockdown, Dr. Bhattacharya helped to write the Great Barrington Declaration, a document that opposed the lockdowns. Dr. Bhattacharya found himself censored on social media and under attack from public health officials.
The proper role of scientists in a pandemic is to answer basic questions that policymakers have about what the right policy should be. The root problem is that we have a scientific culture that doesn't recognize how difficult science actually is, and it punishes failure too sharply and has the wrong standards of truth.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's an amazing audience today. I want to start by thanking Erica Kirk and Turning Point Action for the absolute privilege of being able to address you today. I'm especially excited to talk because I know that there are so many young people in the audience, and I want to speak directly to young people because of so much that has happened over the last 5 years have directly impacted the lives of so many young people. I was a professor at Stanford University for 25 years. Stanford, I still do love the place. Before I became the National Institute of Health Director. And I have to say the best part of my job was always being able to inspire young people to become excellent scientists, excellent doctors, excellent human beings. And I know that Charlie was passionate about science, and he was also passionate about inspiring young people to be the best versions of themselves. Just a couple of weeks before Charlie was murdered, I had the privilege of speaking with Charlie on his podcast. I don't know if any of you saw that. We spoke on a very geeky topic. It was how best to reform scientific journals. And you're asking yourself, why was Charlie interested in reforming scientific journals? Well, it's because science for Charlie was a tremendously important part of making society better. Like him, I also believe that. But also like him, I have seen over the past few years how science can be used to harm society. The backdrop of our conversation was the terrible abuse of scientific authority, including by former leaders of the institution that I now lead, that put forward the idea that there was a scientific consensus in favor of closing schools, closing churches, and closing businesses to stop a respiratory virus that spreads whenever we are anywhere near another human being. The main idea, the main ideology behind the lockdowns is that thou shalt treat your neighbor, your friends, and your loved ones as mere biohazards. And we have to do it in the name of science. The problem is that this was a lie. Science never supported such an idea. It's never. Instead, what happened was that the scientific leadership of this country imposed their own values, their own ideas about how society ought to be organized. This idea that we should treat each other as biohazards, as a central organizing principle of society, which should never have happened, became put forward in front of society in the name of science. And so in order to do that, they shut down debate. In October of 2020, I wrote a document called the Great Barrington Declaration. Any of you in the room sign it? God bless all of you. I'll tell you, I'm tremendously proud of that document, but it was the most unoriginal idea I've ever had. Here's what it said. If you're vulnerable, let's take care of you. If you're less vulnerable, you should live your life. Science depends on freedom. Science depends on free speech. But what happened during the pandemic was that debate got shut down. If you ask me about what was the most important value that Charlie Kirk ever had, it was that we needed to have debate for freedom. And I'll go one step further in the context of science. Science cannot advance without free speech. Science cannot advance without debate. Now, we've been talking about science and the abuse of science that happened during the pandemic. I know so many kids that were harmed by these ideas, by these problems. But I want to also defend, as the director of the National Institute of Health, the flip side. Science can and has been a force for tremendous good. Science is a force for freedom for people. Just to give you some examples of advances that the NIH has sponsored that I hope will get at least as much applause. With scientific advances that to me now look like magic but are not, we can cure sickle cell anemia, a disease that I thought it's a disease that I thought would never be cured, and yet we can do it. We have advances that can keep someone with type 2 diabetes alive for a very long time. And with more work, support of the president, we're going to learn what the cause of autism is. And I've been thinking a lot about this MAGA-MAHA alliance. And I've heard people say, well, it doesn't make sense. Why would these two disparate political movements come together? But if you think about it, it makes complete sense. What is the purpose? What's the goal of the MAHA movement? Well, it's good health and freedom for people. It's good health and freedom for people. The mission of the National Institute of Health is to do science that improves the life expectancy and health of the country. The problem has been, if you look, the country has not been healthy. Since 2010, there's been flat life expectancy. The idea that I've had as a medical student and as growing up was that life expectancy in the country was always going to get better. That the chronic disease crisis that we've seen would get solved. And yet since 2010, the science that we've done has not really translated over to better health for people. If we want to make America great again, we have to make America healthy again. And so the alliance makes complete sense. We need to use science, we need to use the institutions of this country, including the National Institute of Health, to reform them in ways so that it translates over to better health for Americans. I'm gonna leave some time for questions, but I couldn't resist ending with some advice and a plea for the young people in the audience. We need you to become scientists, doctors, nurses, all the things. Please. If you do this, if you become scientists, if you become doctors, if you become the people that you saw in these leadership positions, if you become those people, the next generation of scientists then will not abuse science to impose tyranny in the name of science. We all know what happens when someone comes to you and says, I am the science. And it's because we all know this, when you become the leaders of this country as scientists, as doctors, you will never do that, because at the basis of it is a humility that we look at data, we learn from others, we center scientific debate rather than authority as a source of truth. Okay. I'm a dad, so I'm going to end with just some advice, the kind of advice I give my kids. Especially for those who are contemplating a scientific career or for a medical career, just a few pieces of advice. First, be brave. Be brave. Speak up for your values, because if you look at the scientific institutions of the country, it looks very one-sided. It looks like this dominated by the political left. But it doesn't have to be. Science has no politics. properly considered. So, when you enter these fields, be brave. Speak up for your values. Remember what got you there. If you know that families are good and are the bedrock of our society, say it. If you know that God is good and worthy of worship, say it. And if you believe that science should be a force for freedom, then say it. Second, this is the hard part. Work really hard on your craft. You need to be excellent at it. If you're going to be a physicist, be really good at math. Work really hard on the math. If you're going to be a scientist, if you're a biochemist, work hard on the biochemistry. If you're going to be a doctor, learn how to talk to patients. Think carefully about the scientific evidence and how you talk to patients. Become excellent at your field. And that's not so glamorous. You're going to spend a lot of time in the library, but that's the only way you can become really impactful. Third, there's going to be setbacks. You're not going to get the job you want sometimes. You're not going to be admitted to the school you want. But if you keep at it, if you work hard on your craft and remember who you are and why you're doing the work, then you will make a difference, I promise. Finally, if you succeed, the next generation of scientists will reject groupthink, embrace debate, and advance freedom, because science, properly considered, is really the engine of freedom for the society. I wanted to leave room for questions, and I still have a few minutes. So please, if there's folks who want to ask questions for the National Institute of Health Director, I'm open to hearing.
We've got a question on your right.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Michael Holston. I'm a PhD student at Auburn University in physics. My question is, how do we address the reproducibility crisis in scientific literature? How do we restructure incentives for research funding and make sure our federal research funds go to scientific inquiries rather than politically motivated things, and make sure that they're going to effective studies that have scientifically valid results?
Thank you for that question. So at the base of the question is something that is shocking when I tell non-scientists this. It turns out that so many scientific results that people believe to be true, published peer-reviewed studies, when independent teams look at it, the same thing, they don't find the same answer. That's the reproducibility crisis. What's happened essentially is that we are in a second dark age where authority, I published in a top journal, has replaced scientific reality. Do other people looking at the same thing, using different approaches, tend to find the same answer? How do we solve that? First, we support people who do ask those questions. We support scientific debate. The NIH can do that, and I'm going to do that. I'm doing that. Second, we have to reward scientists who act in ways that promote scientific debate. Do you share your data with others? Do you accept scientific conversation as part of being a scientist? Again, something we can do. And in particular, when you look for scientific papers, it shouldn't just say where it's published. It should say who else has looked at those results and what do they find also. We have to essentially have a second scientific revolution that says it's not enough to say I am the science. Instead, you have to bring evidence, you have to bring data, and you have to accept challenges in physics, in biomedicine, in every area of science. That's the way forward.
This will be the last question.
Oh, goodness.
We're on your left. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my name is Ethan. I'm from Virginia. Over the course of the pandemic, I think a lot of Americans kind of lost trust in the health organizations related to the government. My question is, how can those government-related health organizations regain the trust of the American people?
Thank you for that question. Everyone hear that question? How can you regain trust? I've been asking myself that from the day that President Trump tapped me, the director of the NIH, which is the major organization for scientific research in biomedicine. The key answer to that question is we have to do science that makes the lives of people better. And so that's what MAHA is about, science that makes the lives of people better. That's what MAGA is about, to use the institutions of government to address the real problems that people have. So I've asked myself, how would I consider my success as NIH director? Life expectancy is flatlined since 2010. If at the end of this term we have turned that around so that people are healthier, they're living longer, and they can expect their kids to live longer, that's how we regain trust. We have to use science for the good of people, and I'm so grateful to all of you in the room. If you're a scientist or you want to become a scientist, God bless you. If you want to become a doctor, God bless you. Make America healthy by doing the best you can, and let's keep debating, let's keep talking, and thank you so much for your time.
So nice to myself. I'm 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 so nice to myself.